Hello everyone, welcome to Weekly Manga Recap here on Wednesday to the July 17 of 2024. I am Nick with Quinn.
That's
Hello,
me.
that's her.
Oh.
And it's Manga Talkie time. How is everyone doing?
What if there was like a voice and it wasn't mine? That was just like
We're fine.
could be better.
Oh,
I'm sorry, disembodied voice. We are living in interesting times.
Yeah, it's okay. Things will get better. No, they won't. All right, moving on.
Oh dear. Nick, I don't want to throw this against you, but I hope he's in your house and not mine.
I kind of do too. I feel like that it fit into my place better than yours.
You're like, oh, Quinn, I'm being haunted by the ghost of Garfield the cat. But I'm actually okay with that. I match his disloathing for Mondays. The
spirit of Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh is here. I love Eeyore though. It's all good. It's
this
fine.
Rules.
He says unsettling things, but it's in a charming way. And
Nick, you sure have a lot of gloomy ghosts haunting your place.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah. It's essentially your Casper the Friendly Ghost, but it's all grumps who just are just like, bah humbug. You're like, yeah, Scrooge hangs out here every day except Christmas, actually. He disappears. He goes somewhere else for Christmas, but then everywhere else.
All these cartoon character ghosts hanging around. You just want to do something today? It's like, no. All right. It's cool.
Works for me.
All right. I'll be watching, I'll be watching Justified Season 3. You guys just you guys can watch it with me, or you can just sit over there and, be intangible, I guess.
You can be miserable around each other, I guess. I don't know.
And sometimes it gets a little bit too real. It's like, I miss tasting things. Okay, you're bringing me down a little bit.
All right, you had to sit in the bathtub for a little bit.
Man, I had a really weird I've had a really weird last few days because I've just been sleeping at weird times and stuff. But I think that it's just made me tired. But I don't want to go too far because I know that if it keeps on going, I will kind of hit that point in my brain. So.
Yeah. We're both going to be a little sleepy this episode, but that doesn't matter. We're coming at it with the same energy we normally would if we weren't tired. We're picking ourselves up. This is us. This is our equivalent of showing off the Blue Eyes White Dragon before slipping it into our track uniform and running the fastest thing or whatever that guy did.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
No, did someone do that to give him themselves power for their run or something?
Yeah, it's like the men's field and track leader, Miles something or something Miles, I want to say. He flashed a Blue Eyes White Dragon and stuck it into his outfit and then finished first. And then he showed up to a photo shoot with the dual disc and all 5 pieces of Exodia on it. So look, we can channel the same energy is all I'm saying.
It's you can't call me a dork. I won a gold medal. Fuck you.
Now, they haven't actually competed in the actual Olympics part yet, but they've been crushing all the American parts. So we shall see how Blue Eyes fares on a global scale.
That's right. I have a feeling that you may want to start packing some of those lower level monsters. You don't want to have too top heavy a deck when you go into your sprint.
Yeah, what if next time he flashes Cloud Swordsman of something?
Cloud Swordsman of something.
You know which one I'm talking about? It's the one that looks like a dick.
I might. that looks like a dick.
Yeah, it was like Joey's deck or maybe Kaiba's, one of the two of them. It was just like Cloud Swordsman. I'm gonna find it. Hold on.
Swordsman of Landstar?
Maybe that's it. Let's see. I'm gonna click it. Yep, that's the guy. Looks like a penis.
Well, you can count on Nick to remember obscure Yu-Gi-Oh cards from 20 years ago. It's all right, everybody. Yeah. We got it.
I don't know where I got Cloud from, but otherwise you nailed this.
Yeah. All right, guys. Manga.
Yeah.
We have manga today, and there is no My Hero Academia because there isn't. Yeah. We're like 3 chapters left, and we're still slowly getting there.
If Horikoshi wanted to take like a month off between each chapter, I'd probably be fine with it. I'd be like, go for it, dog. Like, take your time.
Make them as perfect as possible. That'd be kind of nice.
In the meantime, though.
Undead Unluck, though. Yeah.
Yeah, we have Undead Unluck. This is number 214, Promise. And we start in Moscow, Russia, as several of our characters are hanging out, trying to find Tatiana. It looks like it's like Gina, Chikara, I don't know, Billy's also there. I think a shit ton of people are here.
Yeah. The thing that I noticed immediately when I was reading this was, oh, Chikara's like front and center. And then I was like, oh, right, because it's Tatiana. That's why he's front and center.
Remember, these two were like destined to be together by Andy. He just pushed them together, and thus their fates were sealed.
Admittedly, like Tatiana was involved when Chikara was introduced in the previous loop, so it is kind of a nice reflection if we had it so that he's prominent when she's introduced into this loop. That's fine.
Sure, absolutely. Basically, they're trying to find her, but they're like, yeah, Tatiana always has 2 bodyguards on her. But then the bodyguards are like, hey,
where'd she fucking go?
She is taking a long time in bathroom. So they decide to go check, and like a full-on like 90s Disney princess movie, she has snuck out on her bodyguard. She has escaped and is going to live a life free of the tussles and bustles of being a fashion star or whatever. So
I mean, it seems like she might be doing it for just a couple hours, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's that same plot of a lot of those movies. Like, if only I could stop being the president's daughter for a couple hours.
I was just gonna say My Day with the President's Daughter.
Fuko notes like, this is bad though, because I just assumed that Tatiana's tragedy would happen on a fashion stage. Now, she acts like it is supposed to be that because of how it went previously. In my mind, I vaguely recall Tatiana's like flashback just being like in a cabin and her parents were killed. But I don't remember super well from Back Force, so maybe that was something they established even back then. But she's like, yeah, I just assumed it would happen there. But it was during her birthday party. Okay, got it. Yeah. So they're like, look, if it manifests here in the city, it could just blow away the city itself. Like this could potentially be like really, really bad. So they're like, let's split up and find her. But then Billy's like, I lost my daughter.
Why did you bring her?
Okay, so in that shot with Fuko, I wasn't sure with like the visual effect around them if it was meant to be like a collective union kind of moment, but I think that's everyone who's here, which is basically everyone that was at the Karuru event. So I guess he's just like, I don't know, my wife teleported and brought our daughter, so I guess she's just along for our adventure now.
It's like, well, I wasn't counting on this being Bring Your Daughter to Work Day, but here we are. It's happening.
All right, fair enough.
Also, I just want to say before we move on too far, that spot where they're going, oh, Tatiana disappeared. The face that Gina is making in the background there is crazy. Just her eyes going all the way up.
Yeah, I guess she's shocked because of the Kinto-un landing?
I think so. I'm not sure.
I guess, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know exactly how to parse this moment because of like, well,
there's a lot going on.
How is Fuko here? Whatever. Anyway, we cut over. Tatiana has done the perfect disguise trick of putting on a different colored hair wig and a slight bucket hat. And she's like, I'm off to see the town.
I like how she doesn't seem to be carrying any bags of any kind, and yet was able to sneak this wig on and get away from her bodyguards. So was she just like openly carrying a wig around? And they're like, "What's that, Miss Tatiana?" "Nothing."
She's like, "What, are you writing a book? What? Why are there so many questions?" Can a girl just carry a wig down the street without getting accosted every couple minutes? Look over there. So she's like, "Yeah, this is great. I get to have a day to myself finally. This is gonna be incredible. Finally, just time for little old me." And she walks by Billy's daughter, who she doesn't know it's Billy's daughter, but that's how we easily identify it for ourselves. She is at some kind of food stall, and she's like, "Oh, I can't wait to eat it." And Tatiana walking by is like, "Why is this little girl by herself? That's not safe. She really should have adult around. I hope her parents get an earful." And then she pauses. Fuck, I have to do something about this.
Right.
But what she ends up happening, like, Billy's daughter is just like, "Oh, this is so cool. You're so awesome. The food's amazing, right?" And Tatiana's just like, "Oh, where are your parents?" And, gosh, what is her name? Annie? They say her name. Betty. I knew it was one of the old ass style names. Betty's just like, "Yeah, my dad's right. My dad." She looks like she's about to lose it, but Tatiana's like, "Look, I can't get attention drawn to myself, but I will pinky promise you, I will help you find your dad, basically. So don't cry, basically." And it's very cute. They kind of bond. It looks like they might even go, I don't know if it's the same sandwich. I like to think that they had a bit of a time, like, sampling different foods as they're, like, trying to find her dad and stuff like that. But there is a bit of Fuko trying to be like, "Oh, she's got to be around here somewhere. Like, oh, I think I know what's going on. Nico, I have a request." Basically, she calls in because Billy's like in the background going crazy. He's like, "No, I have to find her. My wife's gonna be really, really fucking mad if I don't." Basically, they have to stop him from being a menace. But we see Tatiana and Betty sitting on like a park bench, and she's like, "Hey, yeah, maybe we actually should have stayed put, Betty. Maybe it was a bad idea to like have this adventure together and all that sort of stuff. And I just kind of wanted to, get away and everything." And she's like, "No, it's fine. You made a promise. You made a
pinky promise even."
Yeah. And she's like, "Oh," she gets like a fucking anime exclamation point over her face. And she's like, "Daddy," and just shoots off like a fucking cartoon character.
The impulse of a child, in the middle of a conversation. "Daddy," gone. Yeah. Says nothing to the person who's been looking after her. Just like doesn't say goodbye to her or anything. So like, "Where were you?" "Oh, I was with a stranger. It's cool."
So Billy is there. She grabs onto him. Tatiana, from afar is like, "All's well that ends well." So this works out. And Billy's like, "Wait, where were you?" And she was like, "I was with Mrs. Girl." And they look and they're like, "Wait, I see somebody there. I guess this is Billy still blind?" I keep forgetting those details.
I don't know. He says that height, that straight posture. So I don't know how he would tell those things if he couldn't see.
Because he's kind of given like Daredevil sense there.
He is.
So I don't know if that's what that's meant to apply. Yeah, I have to assume,
I don't know.
I have to assume he he figured out some fucking like trigonometry, like the wind would be blowing, that means thus like fucking how high she is, whatever. But he's just like, "Hey, I found her. I think she's like in this general direction." Fuko gets the delivery from Nico and she's like, "All right, we're heading over. Just wait for us. Any updates?" And he's like, "No, but I did find Betty." But now there's like a whole bunch of attention going on at this park. Essentially, there's a whole bunch of things going on, and it's all because of this adorable panda mascot. It's Pan Panda, the mascot of the official social media Pan Panda account of some
Which
kind.
looks exactly like Fuko.
It just looks like Fuko, yeah.
Yeah. Just dressed exactly like Fuko, complete with Union emblem on the shirt.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Tatiana, of course, cannot hold herself back. This is the most adorable thing. She loves this. She has to rush forward to see it. Unfortunately, she rushes forward so fast, her wig and hat come off immediately. So suddenly, everyone's attention is turned, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Tatiana, this is perfect! Like, oh, it's really her, Tatiana. Give me your autograph." And she starts panicking. She's like, "Oh, I was so close. Like, I became a model, and I made everyone happy, and I wanted to do it. Like, I wanted to like interact with people and have all that thing. But the more and more I experience this, the more I unfortunately get kind of the undecreased territory again. She's like, the less I get to touch the people that are special to me."
I think it makes a lot more sense, at least. I did get the same sort of vibe of like, oh, we're kind of forcing this term in when it's not necessary to the backstory. But yeah, like that's kind of always been the tragedy of
Yes.
Tatiana's ability. So this is just an ironic, take on like not being able to touch someone close to you, but it's in a very different form.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. But yes, it is kind of very obvious.
It's one of those ones you're like, I don't know if touch is the word I would use there. I can see it happening in that sentiment, but there's like a couple different versions of touch that are thrown out in these like 3 pages, and you're like, all right, I get it. She's untouchable.
The time I won't spend around people that I care about won't decrease. Like,
yeah, fuck. That was truly a special event. So she is freaking out. She's about to like scream out, "Don't touch me!" But then there's like a moment of everyone being like, "Oh, wait a minute, is that Karuru?" And
Yep.
Karuru is there. Her Unchased activates. Everyone immediately starts charging after her, and she just start kind of runs away while doing almost like the Team Rocket like she agreed to it, but she's just like, "Oh, you owe me one, Fuko and Tatiana." You're like,
it's great that they got her on their side. It's great that they managed to convince her off panel.
no, it's cool.
Entirely.
In this world, she's got like a slightly antagonistic attitude towards her, so that's like her fun new character gimmick.
I guess. Why'd she agree to it?
I don't know. They're kind of hand waving to like, look, there was a lot of people. We ran out. We gave you Phil. Remember how excited you were for Phil this loop? You're probably not as much anymore because you don't remember what happened during his arc. But at the time, you were pretty excited about Phil.
There were aliens.
Yeah.
Remember that? Aliens?
We put them into the series. We didn't think they'd let us, but we did it. Anyway, the pom-pom comes over to Tatiana. And she's about to be like, my name's Tatiana. You're about to introduce herself. And the pom-pom goes, "Oh, I know you from 200 years ago. And I came to keep my promise." And she
What's going on?
This is, when you know the context, it's okay. It is terrifying, though, out of context, if a giant mascot was like, "I know you from 200 years ago."
I came to keep my promise.
From 200 years ago. That's where I'm like, I better flash back to fucking Camelot or some shit right now. Quinn, how long ago do you think Camelot stories are from?
The first stage performance of Camelot, right?
Like 1834, whenever Camelot fell or whatever happened to it. I don't know. So it's Fuko, and she's in the mascot outfit. She's giving Tatiana this hug, and she's like, "Hey, let's be friends, Tatiana." Or I don't know if it's a hug completely, but she's somewhat embracing her, but it is still not actually like a direct hug or anything like that. Some people point out like they still haven't gotten to like really like embrace. So hopefully we get a chance for that before Untouchable activates.
It does seem like it's a deliberate choice to have Fuko be in a big obtrusive costume when they meet and embrace this way.
Yeah.
To reflect on Tatiana being that way when they met the previous loop. We are moving forward with this, getting some setup for like getting to know like, okay, here's this Tatiana's deal, and I guess we'll see where it goes.
Yes.
I do feel like I'm still kind of reeling from the previous arc having some elements that were just unsatisfying, and haven't really had a chance to kind of like deal with that because the pace that Undead Unluck keeps is there's very little chance for a sense of resolution each time that happens. It's like, okay, on to the next thing. So as long as things are going great, it's like, okay, yeah, let's maintain this nice, awesome rhythm. But then if you stumble, it really feels like, okay, well, we're still moving, and I tripped back there, and I have not caught my footing yet, and we're still going along.
Yeah.
So it sticks with you. So this was definitely a nice positive step, but in the course of reading this chapter to chapter, I'm kind of banking on things getting to a point where we're going to be back on our feet in a little bit, and this is going there, but we're not there yet. And the Kurusu thing was a reminder of like, wait, so what happened with her? Why did we?
Oh yeah, I guess she is just their friend now. I guess they haven't used Artifact yet, but I guess she just believes in Fuko.
Also, Bunny's part of the group. That just happened to our life. I'm not saying that you should have said a whole thing for Bunny to be introduced. I'm happy with her just going, I'm here, Agoo, and then never seeing her talk again. That's fine with me.
Yeah,
I'm just acknowledging that.
I agree on both counts of that. There's a part of me that's like, wouldn't it be nice to see more Bunny? And I'm like, nah.
No one.
Maybe not. Maybe actually, as I think about it a little bit more, do we need Bunny? No, it's decent stuff. I enjoy it. But I do agree with you. There is like a tone in the series right now that feels like we're trying to return to. Hopefully this is like kind of a long, decent arc for us to like, I say long, 3 chapters. 4 chapters.
I was going to say, 3 weeks from now, we're going to be like, and I guess we're on to the end game. All right, Here we go, guys.
Undead Unluck is insane to me because, like, I could truly see this running. I could see this series ending this year, or I could see this series running for another 7. Like, I don't know, like, what this weird middle ground is. All right.
I guess it depends on how many more of the members of the main Soul Rules show up. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Blue Box.
It's chapter 157 of Blue Box, The Beach in Summer. The gang from the Batman Club is just hanging out at the beach. They are R&Ring. That is their job today. And so Kyo is hanging out with Taiki, and they're just talking about stuff. Kyo brings up that, oh, hey, Chinatsu-senpai's birthday is tomorrow, right? And Taiki's like, yeah, I guess we're not going to, really spend it together, which kind of sucks. But, we both have things that we're doing, at our respective camps. But, like the basketball team's going to hold a party for her. So that's cool. And Nishida just comes by and says, you can bail. You can go see your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Because it's like, hey, that's nice. And Haryu's like, quit teasing him. He's like, I feel like Nishida's just serious.
He eventually gives him a melon to take to the girls' basketball team. Like, I think he is just like, I'm not in the club anymore, really. Like, who gives a shit, dude? See your girlfriend.
What are you gonna do? Make me not be the captain anymore? Oh, no.
Yeah, like, this is something that tends to happen sometimes in high school. Like, you reach your senior year, and there is, like, a weird maturity bump you do take a little bit. You're still usually dumb at 18, but there is, like, a little bit of him being like, why can't anyone? He's like, you know what, dude? Heck, go have fun with your girlfriend. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna do volleyball on the beach.
There is an ominous note of how are preparations going with that thing, and then they are interrupted by the appearance of the girls. So it's Hina's friend, and
it's Nina. Nick, come on.
It is Nina.
Yeah.
And Ayame.
And they're Eerie Gray's in the chat. Any second now, there's going to be a Nina popping up in chat.
They're in swimsuits, and they get, they're so beautiful and stuff. And I'm just like, Ayame, you're showing cleavage. Oh my god, you harlot! Like, what is going on here? This is the most skin that has been shown in this series so far. What's happening? My poor G-rated Blue Box. What have you done to it?
Well,
Now it's Y7 blue box. What have you done?
They heard what you said last week about Hima-Ten. They're like, oh, we need a series that's a fan service. Just you wait.
There's some jokes about that they make at Taiki's expense because all the guys who are there, because Haruto is also there, and they all look up, and because Haruto and Kyo are the way that they stare blankly. Because Taiki has a girlfriend, he stares blankly. And Ayame's like, don't you have anything to say to a trio of babes in bathing suits? And Taiki's kind of like, I don't know what to say. And so Hina says, he's got a girlfriend. And so I was like, oh, okay, gotcha. So
Fair enough.
we couldn't possibly compete for the side of Chinatsu in a bathing suit. And Taiki goes, Senpai in a bathing suit! And he has an imagination spot where her entire body is covered by a cloud that he can't imagine.
He can't imagine past her shoulder. I'm like, this is such an innocent little boy at this point. It's almost precious where you're like, yeah, never go further. Truly let yourself exist at this point where anything past the shoulder is ribald to you.
I just can't imagine his girlfriend this way. His girlfriend that he's been dating for months, by the way.
It does have like the energy of like an 8-year-old who has like a girlfriend or something like that. Where she's like, what are you talking about? No.
We hold hands. Yeah.
That's
kissing. Ew. No.
Yeah, sometimes our feet touch when we're wearing shoes.
Because sometimes we like to kick each other underneath the table. That lets it because we like each other, Nishida and Haruyu kind of call them over into the water. People play around in the water, and they're splashing each other. Ayame's hanging out in an inner tube, and Kyo pops up next to her. Ayame has a brief moment of like, oh, he's not wearing his glasses. Oh, honey. Oh. And there's a very cute moment where Kyo is like, why aren't you swimming? And she's like, it's fine like this. And he says, you can't swim, can you? So he just kind of pauses for a second while she stares at him and grabs the inner tube and just kind of starts pulling her around. And she's like, oh, well, oh, wait, he's treating me like I'm his little sibling. Just has a brief moment of like, oh.
I'm like one of his kid siblings. Okay, got it.
It's very cute. On the beach, Haruyu and Haruto are talking for a second while they're just chilling out. And they're just kind of like, huh, sure, like a lot of couples that they're hanging out on the beach here. And Haruto observes, like, yeah, and you've got a girlfriend. I'll bet if you saw her in a bathing suit, you get all excited. And
you know
Haru's
what?
Like,
I take everything I said last week that I was almost kind of charmed by the Hina Haruto thing. I don't know if he's horny or he just does not have a filter at all. Like, that's it. It's just such a strange thing to say. Be like, I bet you'd get really aroused if you saw your girlfriend in a bathing suit. Like, what prompted this? We weren't even talking about swimsuits.
Also, for whatever reason, Haru's spot with Karen in a bikini has her saying, I can swim 25 meters. All right.
Which isn't like far. So I don't know what that
far.
I don't know if it's supposed to be a brag or
I don't know. Some babes in bathing suits come over, and there is a zoom up on one of their chests, and it's like, what has happened to Blue Box? Titties exist in this series now. What has happened?
Nick's covering his eyes, like, no, my precious Blue Box.
Cleavage in a mostly just kind of conservative bikini. Cleavage, though. What's happened?
This is the chapter that a bunch of like people on the internet you don't want to hang out with do videos. So like, finally, chapter 157, Blue Box gets good. And that's the panel they use as the thumbnail.
Jesus. They say like, hey, do you guys want to have some fun with us? And Haru's like, nope, thank you. Just unfazed. And so like, okay. And Haruto says, it's kind of a waste. Is your willpower to resist that kind of desire the reason you're so good at badminton? And Haruyu says, no, it's because my desire to win is so strong. You'll probably get stronger soon enough, Haruto, and walks away from him.
He's like, all right, peace out, loser. You gotta level up.
That's right. I don't get horny for them because of badminton, which one day you will understand, scrub. Nishida shows up. He's got a couple of watermelons, those very round Japanese watermelons. And they're like, oh, right, wow, cool, yeah. Why do you have 2? We can't eat 2 watermelons. This is too much. It's like, I don't know. I feel like this many teenagers probably could, but whatever.
Yeah, I imagine if you gave, like, it's what, like 8 or 9 of them right now? Like, hungry teenagers, like, athletic teenagers,
yeah,
generally speaking.
It's about 8 of them, I think.
They could probably go through it.
But Nishida says, like, oh, yeah, they threw in an extra one on the house, so I figured we'd give one to the girls' basketball team. You can go take it to them, Taiki. What a bro. What a good guy.
There was, like, a moment where there was, like, we saw Nishida grow as a person. Like, he expanded. He, like, changed from, like, 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional before our eyes. It was wonderful. And then, like, mischievously in the background, we saw like a cock block shaped void appear. And we were like, oh no, we must fill this with something.
We've got to have... There's a space in the continuity, in the continuum of Blue Box. There has to be someone to be immature around these people. Who could do it, though? Who?
Someone has to be real inconvenient and constantly try to impede Taiki having a normal relationship.
It's like that moment in the 90s Ninja Turtles movie. Is that someone familiar, someone from the past?
Oh yeah, this is straight up any like Fast and the Furious movie where the villain of the previous movie is now a hero and has to fight against him. Like Nishida's just like, what are you doing? You gotta let Taiki score every so often. They gotta be able to have like some time together.
Taiki goes to take the watermelon over to the girls' basketball team. As he's heading in, Chinatsu happens to be outside, and so she greets him. And she's like, oh, thanks. And they just, are just like talking casually for a little bit. And Taiki gets to say, hey, tomorrow, if you have some time, let's go, you and me. Aww.
There is an interesting way that, what is this, page 14 is sort of laid out where, like, you see Chinatsu and then it closes in on her face. And then, like, the next panel is her sort of, like, in this mid-walk animation towards Taiki. And I don't know how else to, like, say this, except it gives me, like, 90s point-and-click adventure vibes.
Yeah.
Where it's like, click, Taiki! Like, I'll start walking towards you.
She's got a really weird walk cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, oh no, was I supposed to bring the watermelon? Am my sequence breaking?
And then somehow it gives you a game over, because if you give watermelon to Chinatsu in this moment, then you can't give it to the guy who will give you the key to get out of the prison later on.
God.
Oh, man.
You're going to feel like such an idiot when you look that up in the guide.
Load last save. Oh, boy. For whatever reason, in this moment, a random douchebag appears just out of the void. We haven't seen this guy in so long. And I saw him and I was like, wait, have I seen this random person before? And then they called him by name, which is Kishi, and a narration box popped up to say, by the way, this guy's a fan of Chinatsu since she looks like one of his favorite characters. And I had to go, oh, right, that guy. Right.
It's weird because I like vaguely can recall this individual. I think they were like Taiki's opponent in like the first year tournament at some point. I don't remember him having a personality, but I vaguely can kind of recall him being like saying something about Chinatsu. But it was one of those moments I was like, what a fucking dig through my past to bring back just the shittiest, most annoying character for this situation.
A very strange thing happens because he says, hey, Taiki, aren't you standing a little close to Chinatsu-senpai? That's not that bad. But then he says, she's a sacred being. Keep your distance. That would be a weird thing to say to anyone.
Yeah.
It's even weirder to say it 2 feet in front of the person you're talking about. like,
don't know very well.
Know her.
They go to school together. If nothing else, you know that they go to the same school. You don't know her.
Chinatsu's basketball teammates poke their heads out and they're like, "Hey, that's Chinatsu's boyfriend. He can stay close to her if he wants to." And it's like, for whatever reason, Kishi sees the world differently after this moment. It's like he realizes there are ghosts now.
He's been Joker-fied in this moment. This was his one bad day, and now the world's gonna suffer as a result.
Hey, she's a sacred being. We live in a society, a society where guys can date the girls you like without your knowledge.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how close the school was to Taiki's, but like, it is honestly even a little crazy to me to be like, oh yeah, a girl in another area, like another school in our area that I know is the girl of my life. Like, you don't even have someone you could like crush after in your own school. Like, how often is this thing even coming up for you?
So Kishi gets really pissed off because Taiki, did well in the first year tournament. He got to go to nationals. And now you got a girlfriend? Oh, I challenge you! Yeah, if I win, you have to practice with me the entirety of your trip. Oh, just literally going, if I beat you in a badminton match, you can't spend time with your boyfriend and with your girlfriend on this trip. You are not allowed. What the fuck is your problem?
Such a strange thing. Look, I don't want to be too harsh on this kid because in like the grand scheme of Jump, a lot of the antagonists are usually like war criminals, they're causing like genocides or like doing horrible things, They're like, but that said, this kid is like he's up there with Saturn as like the most detestable character in Jump right now. I was so infuriated reading this. I was like, fuck off. You don't even know her. Like, is this the first time you've ever even really had like a conversation in front of Chinatsu? Like, what the fuck? Like, I hated this kid so much. I want a car to hit him.
You heard it, everybody. Make sure to nominate Kishi, that one random douchebag from Blue Box, for Villain of the Year 2024.
And here's the thing: he should be a consideration. But if there is a god in this gentle world, I will not remember him by the end of the year, and I will ask Nick, who the fuck is Kishi from Blue Box? And you will start reiterating this exact chapter to me, and I will look at you and I'm like, that sounds vaguely familiar. But in this moment now, guillotine. Like, just cut it off with the head. Just take it right off.
All right. Quinn, are you ready for some happy times?
Barum presumably killed a child, and I'm less angry about Barum's actions than fucking what's-his-nuts actions.
Chainsaw Man Chapter 171, Special Division 5. Last time, Denji demanded of Barum to see where Nayuta is. Barum responded by having her head sent down the sushi conveyor belt, which has caused Denji to, react. Asa and the Devil Hunter Club are reacting in shock too. And Barum, it feels like he knows what's going to happen to him in this moment.
I mean, he has to be pretty sure, right? Like
he's got to.
He seems like he thinks a couple moves ahead, and he's like, I know what I'm getting into here.
Yeah. He just kind of grabs a plate of sushi, and he's like, "Yeah, sorry, it was pretty cruel of me, isn't it? But it's to save the world." And he goes to eat some sushi. Denji grabs him around the throat, and his guts, Denji's guts, suddenly spurt out of his stomach and wind themselves around his head as he starts to transform into the full Chainsaw Man. But before that can happen, he squeezes Barum's head off like he's a vegetable.
Yeah. This is straight up almost like casually a brutality. Like, you're like, wow, Mortal Kombat's really gone a long way to capture the same effect this single panel of Chainsaw Man did.
Then he pulls his ripcord, only at this point, And Yoru watches all this happen as Denji starts to transform into Devil Man and starts to wreck the place. His guts become his scarf, but they're also whipping around, smashing all the conveyor belts behind him. And everyone runs. All the people in the sushi restaurant start leaving. If we hear a voice all of a sudden saying, "Target site at the front of the building, Eyelid Black Chainsaw Man confirmed. Devil Extermination Team 1A. Devil Extermination Division 2 Team B, commence action. Special Division 5 has arrived at this destination." And there is a human, it seems, with a pair of binoculars, and he gives a bunch of people a little pep talk saying, "This is the Special Division's big debut. Your performance will determine whether you'll be protected as members of public safety or put down as useless devils. Your job is to damage Chainsaw Man in any way you can. It's fine if you can't kill him. If you can keep him from leaving, you'll receive your due recognition. Survive, and I'll personally treat you to as much booze and sushi as you want. Special Division 5, commence operation." And we get a bunch of people, just quick looks at this division that has gathered together to attack Chainsaw Man, who wrecks the whole sushi shop immediately. But it just collapses around him.
Here's the thing. I don't know. I think that might be... Remember how early on there was like a second Chainsaw Man? In part 2? I think that's the second Chainsaw Man. That's what that's suggesting. Because that doesn't look like the front of the sushi restaurant. Like, that before was like a standalone building called like Sushishi or something like that. This looks like almost like an apartment complex or like an overpass kind of like highway area thing.
I get what you mean. I think that I may have just been very bad at examining backgrounds in this.
I would say, to be completely honest, I think this is just like a weird way of conveying information. It was just like kind of a poor job explaining it, because like it's not 100% that I think that's the case, but I think it has to, because it would be really sloppy writing otherwise to establish Denji inside of a restaurant, and the next shot is like he's in a bunch of destroyed buildings with none of the other previous characters around. Did you just kill everybody? Like, what happened? Like, I don't know. So I think it's supposed to be a second one, but I would have gone with like a slightly different paneling or something to make that more clear.
Well, especially because it seems to cut... No, you're right, because... All right, now that I see the transition again, we transition out the window past the guy running from Denji. You can see the building that this guy is standing on. And then it zooms in through the window on that guy. And you can see the collapsed building behind him. Mm-hmm. So this is cutting straight from that window to this scene where the other building is that the other Chainsaw Man's coming out of. Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know, unless Denji can tell.
But I didn't get that. I didn't get that on my first 2 times reading this. So.
Yeah, I only started to pick that up when people in our Discord were talking about the second Chainsaw Man. I was like, oh, wait.
All I saw were the people saying, "Oh, Nick's going to hate that girl in that stupid hat." And yeah, you're right. I do.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay as long as nobody starts going on about how she's, like, as long as she's not made out to be like the cute ugu sad boy of the group or whatever. That's
Nick won't tolerate that. That's
no. I do like the horned looking guy in the suit though. I think he looks cool.
Yeah, that's some real Guillermo del Toro fucking looking character right there. I don't know how I feel about the poor character who just seems to have a half of an alligator head growing out of their face.
Yeah, don't know what's going on with them, or with the guy who just has ears.
I have to assume that's like the hearing devil or something. Like, it's always one of those things. I'm like, what is this alligator devil person? And I really hope it's like interest rates. Like, that's not like I'm the interest rates devil. Like, I mean, I do fear interest rates, so I imagine you were powerful. I don't quite understand the crocodile head. They're like, well, default on a credit card, and then it'll start making sense to you.
They'll get you.
Nick, let's talk about Astro Royale.
I feel like us covering this series has contributed to ruining this series for me because I was just making lighter jokes to myself while I read this. The entire time I was reading this chapter to myself, I was like, "Oh, they have a lighter that gives them powers." Oh God, it's like you've only got one chance to make a first impression, and if you have like multiple people have lighters, and then whatever.
Yeah.
Chapter 13, Collision. We are introduced suddenly to a new character.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Was Collision ever the name of a type of WWE programming?
That's AEW.
Oh, is there an AEW Collision? Okay.
AEW
yeah,
Collision.
that's right. Okay. In my mind, Velocity. That was the Heat alternative for the other promotion or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. There's certain words that when I hear it, like if you were to do like word reaction, I would be like, pay-per-view, WWE pay-per-view, Sunday Night Heat. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. WWE Velocity, not to be confused with WWE Speed.
Well, Nick, those are two different things entirely when you're speaking about science. So, if anything, good on them for keeping them separate.
No, not entirely. Never mind. One has direction. So, we're introduced to a new character all of a sudden. It's Tora's number 2 guy, Fudo. He's
Fudo!
A little.
I love Fudo.
He's got cool hair, guys. So
and you said
he shows
your instant reaction to seeing this character was, I wonder what kind of lighter they have.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much.
I wonder if their lighter has as many tones as their hair
what their lighter does. I wonder what their lighter does. What kind of powers their lighter gives them. Yeah. So Fudo shows up, and there's such a really weird Tarazo is the only one who goes to talk with Fudo. But Karan and Tarasu are, observing from nearby, and Karan's like, "Oh yeah, that's one of the Fudo brothers, and they're Tora's number 2 guys. I heard they're strong." And Tarasu goes, "Of course, that's what you'd focus on." And it's like, wait, what? Why is that a weird observation to make? Is like you guys are in a gang.
What? Yeah.
Do you not realize that?
What's the other adjective you would have thought would have been more appropriate? Like, he's great at backgammon. Like, yeah, you've been paying attention to the right thing. The fact that he's powerful probably is a very pertinent detail to be shared.
So he says that in the attack on the Roppongi branch that we saw in the previous chapter, that his brother got caught trying to allow the others to escape. There were minimal casualties, but everyone ended up in the hospital. But he found out one piece of good news: my bro's being kept in the top floor of their hideout, the same place they keep all the stolen lighters in. Sorry, the stolen links in. So Tora's like, all right, so we practically got my lighter back.
This guy must be the greatest astro hunter ever. And actually, he just collects hippos. He had half of them in his home already.
There is, I feel like, a very weird sequence that happens in the next couple of pages. So there's a bunch of people in a shelter, a police station, probably a police station. And so Hibara goes in and is like, I need you guys to take care of this no-no kid. Because presumably her mom is still bedridden and can't just take care of her. So we're introduced to...
She has a grandma. They're putting her into foster care. And I was like, she had a guardian. She just escaped the guardian. I don't know why you're making this strange, overworked police officer suddenly take care of this child.
So this police officer is like, no, we're too busy. Her name is Sakura. And Hibara's like, why can't you take care of her? And she's like, well, it's too crowded here. There's too many people around. We can't do it. So Tora's like, hey, don't say that, Sakura. We would take care of her, but our branch just got smashed to bits. And she goes, Tarazo! And Hibara says, oh, you know each other? Oh, we're old friends. What? A cop in this series who is old friends with a member of this Yakuza family? What? How is this possible?
Whoa.
So Sakura says all the higher-ups vanished, and now it's all about shifting responsibilities onto others and sounding out new interests. Man, the cops sure are useless. It's a good thing all these Yakuza are around.
Thank goodness they're here making this work.
Now that she knows that Hibaru is in the same Yakuza family as Tora, she's like, all right, well, how about we make a deal? Because the Astro Hunters are causing us a lot of trouble, stealing everyone's lighters and all that stuff. And we got intel that their hideout at Babel is where all the stolen lighters are. And we've got blueprints of the whole place. So I'll take care of little No-No here, and I'll give you the blueprints if you go and take care of them. All right, thanks, Questgiver. Thanks.
Done and done. Thank goodness we solved that problem we immediately invented for ourselves by introducing a new character who just readily agreed to the problem at hand.
It's a good thing we talked to this woman who had a glowing icon above her head so that she could tell us all the plot advancement information.
Yeah, and this is like a gold one, too. So you're like, I can't even skip this quest. We have to do it.
Literally. We can't leave town until we've talked to her. It's crazy. There's a giant icon on our radar that leads you to her. Every time that you pause without doing anything, the NPC that's next to you is like, we should go to the police station, see if there's anyone to talk to.
Yeah, like that exact wording too. If we go to the police station, we might find someone who can handle our problems. You're like, why would you assume that? I don't. That's kind
Police are always solving the Yakuza's problems. Come on.
Yeah, that's kind of an out there. Whatever. I guess you know your town better than I do.
So they get set to go to the tower where all the stolen lighters are held, and Tora says, "All right, hey Kuran, you drive Hibaru and Kinpa, and Tarasu, you're riding with me." So they're taking two separate cars, and he is in a car with Tarasu, and so they start talking, and for a second I was like, oh, like two characters that joined this party at different times who aren't the main character are going to have a conversation here.
Yep.
And for the briefest of moments, I was like, a character development happened, Quinn.
Oh my god, we're finally, these characters are evolving.
It takes like a page and a third, but it happens, which is, he just says like, hey, you guys have joined up with Hibaru's faction, so you're like supporting him as if he's your boss right now. But according to the will, you're supposed to take over the family, not Hibaru. Are you okay with that? And Tarasu starts to think about it, but then, what? No, we have to introduce another lighter power. It's interrupted immediately. So we had like I know what character development is, but you're not getting it.
No, Nick, it's an intentional thing. We're leaving that question open so it can get answered in a follow-up chapter by the actions of the characters.
Yeah. So
or another character with the lighter will show up and we'll just keep kicking that can down the road for a while.
There's an ant, a big ant inside of the car, and it's got these weird energy wing things, and suddenly there's a huge ball that bursts through the windshield of the Hummer that they're in, sends them careening off course, and then a huge spike comes from the ground and crushes it, sends it flying. It nearly careens into the one that Karan is driving, and everyone gets out of the cars, and they're like, "Oh, what happened?" And there's all these huge things forming a giant ant-shaped thing that starts to attack them. Tarasu uses his shield to block, and then Hibaru uses his magnum punch thing to make a bunch of asphalt get in the way too and shield them from it. And sarcastic slow clap starts up. No one else does it though, so it's not a very good sarcastic slow clap. So it's Guido, the guy from the previous chapter, and he's like, what a treat to get to kill 4 of you instead of just 1.
He has so many goons.
There's 6 of them there.
Yeah. He's not great at that. He has so many friends, and not one of them could have joined him in clapping. Like, not one of them was like, guys, it's really awkward if he's the only one doing it. Come on, he's like, he's our bro. Like, let's help him out.
The actual problem is that he's the only one who has pockets, so the rest of them are busy holding their lighters, and so they can't clap their hands.
Yeah. I want to evaluate like the latter half of this chapter is like kind of decent. Like
It's action packed.
They're trying to set something up with Tarasu. Like they're trying to like address that like plot point from early on. It's like, are you really the fucking person nominated, or are you supporting this guy? Like, let's look into that. That's like what I imagine is supposed to be a major hook. Like this is this is like your Asta Wizard King shit. Like this is like your narrative hook that's supposed to like carry people through this series.
Yeah, I mean, that was the big thing that was the dramatic tension before even the Astra were introduced was, oh man, who was the actual head of this family supposed to be? And Hibari lied about it because he thought that Tarasu would be a better leader than he would be. Yeah. He defied their father's last wish in doing that. And we haven't really talked about that at all since then. There's been a lot of stuff going on, but there's been so little in the way of developing either of them as characters outside of Hibaru's a good guy. And, like that's important to establish early on for a shonen battle series. Like, hey, this is a nice and admirable guy and stuff. Tarasu's just been a little whiz, That's not even a word, a whiz.
A whiz. But he has been a little whiz, yeah.
It just sounds bad, so.
Yeah, and, like, even though there's like some bumps to that, I still generally like that point. There's action, like we're setting up an antagonist. I'm generally always going to be pretty positive on somebody with bug powers. Like it's usually something that's pretty cool. And I'll say this, at least having like a weird ant theme to it is something. It's more than just like, here's wax powers, splash, splash. Like there's like a stylistic choice going on. The first half of this chapter though, is just straight up like, have you never written a story before? Like, what is this? Like, you were so desperate to get a reason for these characters to go from point A to point B. You like invented a cop and a problem that they had to solve and all this sort of stuff. Like, it's very strange.
It's a lot of busy work to get to the point of, okay, now I can actually do the important stuff. It takes a very weird, awkward time that feels like it could have been done almost off panel. Like, it's a good thing that we left Nono with that cop.
Yeah.
And also she told us this information. Like,
look.
Now, if she proves to be important later,
I was going to say, maybe Sakura is an important character, like an ally for them to rely on, and this is their way of being like, hey, she's going to be significant going forward or whatever. Sure. Yeah. But in this moment, it's not the best.
Now, let's move on to talking about Hima-Ten, Chapter 2. Last time, of course, it turns out that, oh my gosh, Iemori's new classmate, the super designer girl, Yoshino, she's the girl whose apartment that he's cleaning for his job as a house cleaner and stuff. So how is this going to work out? Chapter number 2, the house cleaning starts. Kind of bizarrely enough, this chapter just like takes its time just establishing what happens during that first session of him cleaning her house. Really takes its time with it and just continues to build on the dynamic between them.
Now, Nick, what did you famously say last chapter?
I said, famously, Quinn, there wasn't any fan service in this first chapter at all. So, hey, that's nice.
There you go.
Didn't wait long.
Hey, this is like almost modest cute. Like
it's not that bad.
I mean, it's weird to like, I guess, compare the degrees of it, but I'm like, look, if Blue Box is like our gold standard, that it took them like 150 chapters to have any kind of like, hey, breasts exist kind of moment. This is a moment where you're just like, yeah, I guess that could be considered sexual to somebody. I'm not even gonna really think about that.
This is what we call world building, Quinn. This is the series establishing that characters have butts in this universe.
That's actually important, because there are series where that, doesn't show up until book 4, book 5, and you're like, wait, no one's had butts this entire time?
I mean, it's like, like new Exorcist, like we don't, there's this constant like, oh, and they're still like giving you rules on how things work, and it feels like it's just doesn't all connect in some way. But you know what I do know exists in that series? Pee. Because that dude peed in chapter 1. We know that pee exists in this universe, and I will never need to wonder that about a new Exorcist.
Yeah, as multiple characters have now urinated in the series, we do know urine is not a mechanic to hollow weapons breaking, which is important.
How weird would that have been? That first monster shows up, the guy pees his pants, the monster immediately goes, "Oh no!"
It's like a protection bar. Like before your hollow weapon's destroyed, you urinate yourself, and it's like an extra life for your hollow weapon. So like, there's a cool moment of like whatever Kenpachi analog coming in, and he's like, "You're lucky you just made me pee my pants."
Everyone's shoving Gakura out of the way. Forget you! That guy who peed his pants on cue! We need him to stop the spirits.
Oh, piss pants Charlie. He really is the best member of the Soul Division. I don't know what the organization in that universe is called, but
not the Gote 13. Yeah. So anyway, back to Hima-Ten. So yeah, Ishina's like, all right, I'm gonna count on you to, clean my house. And Iamori is like, yeah, okay, but are you like fine with this? Like having a guy from your class in your house? And she's like, oh my god, you're right. This will be really weird and awkward and stuff. And so she's like, it's not a matter of like, I don't have a problem with you cleaning for me, but you've seen what a horrible condition I kept my apartment in. So you can't just leave after that. And he's like, I won't tell anyone. And she says, that doesn't mean anything to me. And he's like, what? Why is it something you need to hide? And she's like, I'm the president of a makeup brand. I'm the face of a company of elegant fashion and togetherness and stuff. So you can't know about this, basically. If you don't say as long as you don't say anything about this, we're fine. But if you do, I'm going to hire a lawyer. I mean, that I don't know if that would hold up, but
yeah.
She could afford one. He probably can't, though.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure she could handle it pretty quickly if she needed to. But I do like how she's coming at him so fast and hard on this.
She goes a lot really quickly between a lot of points. You can tell that it is actually kind of realistic because you can tell that she's sort of very flustered because she goes from talking about one thing to connect to another one and another one very quickly.
Yeah.
So Iamori is like, all right, what do you want me to do? And she says, everything, like literally everything, basically, including not just like cleaning up, but also give me some food from like a takeout place later. And she establishes she has horrible dust allergies, and she like even sneezes while they're talking there. So it seems like the mask she was wearing was for that.
People were saying that last week that was also established. So her mask, probably was for that, but it could have been for a lot of different things. People wear masks now. It's just like a thing. And they've been doing it in Japan for way longer.
Yeah. Iamori, to basically demonstrate how good a job he's going to do, gives her a Polarian light so that she can see all the dust that is gathered up on the floor and everything. She freaks out when she sees it because she's like, oh my god, I had no idea that it was so filthy. And, so she's like, yeah, look, you're paying me for my work. I want to make sure you're satisfied, even if you don't like the fact that it's me who's doing it. So he gives her the light, and she's like, all right, get to it. And he says, all right, I guess today I'll focus on the kitchen, which is pretty bad. And he even admits, like, oh, yeah, I didn't realize it was this awful until, like, actually taking a hard look at it, which I understand that feeling. When you realize something is getting bad, you put it out of your mind's eye until you're forced to look at it again, and then you realize, oh, this is actually horrible.
This is really bad. I need to fix this, yeah.
Iamori is actually kind of happy about it, though, because like, okay, I've got a big job ahead of me. She also hasn't even like unpacked the dishes that her aunt gave her, which, I mean, it seems like she hasn't been using the kitchen as a kitchen, so that makes sense. She goes off. There's a scene where he has to go and check on her with something. Walks in without her permission, sees her as she's getting changed out of her uniform. Fan service. He's all flustered and stuff. And
that, Nick, will be the last time I predict we'll have any fan service of any kind in Hima-Ten.
Okay.
Now, Nick, I have a lot of monkey paws that are all curled up that I need you to use. Can you figure out something to do with them? Because I am swimming in them.
Oh, okay. I hope that there aren't any more sequences of Iemori seeing Yoshino taking her skirt off by accident specifically, and nothing else.
All right.
She gives him some money to go and get something from like the grocery store, and then she says, "Also, gotta hold on to your phone because I don't want you taking pics of the place." And so he's like, "All right." And then while he's gone, she's like, "Oh my God, this is so messed up. While we were talking at school, I was talking about being super independent and not needing anyone to take care of me. What the hell is he thinking about all of this?" And Iemori is, feeling kind of down on himself. Like, I did just kind of like walk around without thinking when I knew it was, a girl's house. So it's kind of a nice thing where he's like, not thinking about like, oh, I saw her butt or anything. He's just like, I intruded on her without thinking, and that was.
He's taking responsibility for it. Yeah.
But he also thinks about the fact like this is kind of crazy that like this teen icon lives here, and I'm going here to clean. That's kind of just wild. So he also thinks like she runs an entire company. I bet she could clean if she tried, which is kind of the thing of like. People who need help cleaning their stuff is because they don't have the time to do it because they're doing other things. So yeah, she could clean probably if she had the time to do it.
Yeah.
She doesn't. That's why you're here. I hope that that's what he is saying, as opposed to like, she's probably just too lazy or something. I hope that that's not the case.
I don't think so. I thought he says something towards the end that he kind of makes up for it on. I don't know. We'll get to the end, I guess.
He's got to check on her again later, and he actually checks. It's like, hey, are you decent? Fool me once, blah blah blah. So she needs a second, and has to like handle some stuff on the phone. And then she says, "Okay, now you can come in." And he says, "All right, I'm done." And he comes inside, and she's like in work mode, like work at home mode.
Yeah.
Hoodie, she's got her glasses on and has removed her makeup, and she's got her hair in those kind of like one of those weird braid things where there's a scrunchie every couple inches and stuff. And she's like, what is that, you really? And she's like, yeah, I don't wear makeup at home, and if you're going to be hanging around here, then I guess you're going to have to get used to seeing me at my worst. And I do appreciate that he thinks to himself, is she really think that this is her at her worst? Because this is a way more interesting character design just in general for her.
There was a moment where a lot of people saw this like page turn and they're like, ooh, but I think that's the design we should just use all the time, actually.
Like, I think that in a subjective sense, I think that this is like, she looks cuter like this. But also, this is just a more fun character design because she's not just an attractive girl in a school uniform. And I'm not saying like those are bad designs. I'm saying in shonen manga, there's a billion of those, as opposed to looking like she does in this case, whereas like, she's unique looking.
Yeah, big sweatshirt, the braided hair, the glasses, like big wide for like almost circle frame glasses. Yeah, it's like it's a cute look.
Iemori is like, oh, you've been working the entire time that I've been cleaning? She's like, yeah. So she goes to check out his work, and the place looks immaculate. There are sparkles on the floor and stuff. She gets out the light that he gave her and is checking for dust and everything. And he says, yeah, it was kind of a nightmare to do this without a vacuum cleaner. And she's like, oh yeah, I don't have one. He's like, what do you mean you just, I'll buy one. Shut up, get off my case, I'll buy one. The kitchen and the stove.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you think it's going to be her or the Onodera girl? Which one of the two of them is going to be really, really bad at cooking when they're forced to do it? We know that it's going to be one of them. One of them's going to be really, really bad at cooking.
It feels like it's going to be her, but I would not be shocked if it's going to be a reversal of expectations and like, oh, the perfect girl next door can't cook.
The Onodera situation, right?
Yeah.
That was her whole thing. All her food looked perfect, but it was disgusting.
It was actually awful, yeah. I don't know. We'll see. So, also, he has made dinner. Didn't buy dinner. He made dinner for her, like with proper ingredients and stuff. And he's like, yeah, I couldn't find a good ready-made meal. So she's like, all right, thanks, and eats it. And it's like,
she's like, damn.
And he says,
incredible.
Well, he's like, why do you ask? And she's like, well, back then I was, like taking your lunch, and this time I'm paying you. So she's like, weighing her way of complimenting it. No, I'm paying for this one, so I have to like leave a proper review, and instead of just like, oh yay, free food. And she starts to get down on herself because she's like, I can't believe my own classmate made me dinner. I suck. And he says like, hey, there's lots of services that you could just hire people to do for that. This is just one of those services.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with hiring someone to clean for you. You are running a company. You're making a living on your own. It kind of makes it cool to have that you outsource this. And it's like, aw.
Yeah, this was that payoff I was saying. I was like, I know he says something at the end. It's like, no, it's fine actually if you aren't able to do that sort of stuff. Like, it's okay to have other people do it.
Absolutely. Ian Moore gets set to leave, but she's like, oh, do you want your phone? And then holds the phone out to him and does that to use the facial recognition to unlock it. And he's like, what are you doing?
It's kind of evil and kind of adorable. It's a little bit of both. It's more the first, but it's a little adorable.
All she does is add herself as a contact.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, that's fine. That's okay then. And so he gets a little bit flustered over it, and he's like, why couldn't she just like do that directly? And then he's just turned away from her, is getting set to leave, and suddenly he gets some text from her that say, the food was yummy, you did a great job, you're good. Right next to him. It's like, aw, that's cute. Mm-hmm. It's cute that she's embarrassed to say it to his face. Yeah. So yeah, she's also like, also please cook for me from now on because it was good. So
yeah.
She's like, yeah.
Is an adorable message because that's a brave one to send. The hey, could you actually also cook for me every time? Like that's, I don't know why. That's like feels like actually a pretty big deal. They didn't hold off on that or something. Like that's a certain level of like, that feels like you're imposing a lot of times if you ask, can you cook for me? Like that's a big thing to do. Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I accept you as my house cleaner. So it's, hey, they're
very healthy.
Both good with this arrangement. It's nice. This was a nice chapter. There was that moment, yes, but this was a very good continuation of the first one, and just saying like, they're gonna like get along with this, and there's just a lot of like cute wholesomeness that happens here. It's nice.
Yeah. So we all agree that like Blue Box is kind of like that outlier when it comes to like romantic series and Jump, that like, oh, this isn't like your, Nisekoi, We Never Learn, Ichigo 1000. Like it's not one of those kind of veins sort of series. So I like exclude that from the statement. I think Hima-Ten might be the best written one of these we've gotten in a while. Nick, why don't those thunder strikes happen at once?
I feel like I just heard like a heavy clock hand tick.
Yeah, I know I just set off 1,000 curses at once. I really, really like this chapter. I thought it was very cute. I like how healthy these two seem as characters. I'm like, look, if that's the level of fan service I'm going to get, then that's fine. I don't, whatever. I fully expect this series to greatly disappoint me at some point. But right now, I really like this chapter. I was like, this is good. I like these kids.
Let's talk about Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi. Chapter 4, Kiyoshi and Akari.
About our main lead, or main male lead and main female lead interacting for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just as good. All right, so we're introduced to Akari Jogasaki, who is the other exorcist at the Gates of Hell Chinese restaurant / exorcist bureau that Kiyoshi has just started at. They do a big welcome thing of like, "Hey, Kiyoshi, welcome! Yay, let's have a drink."
You know what I would call Akari?
Mm.
JoJo, because Jogasaki is one of the names. And I feel like if your name starts with Joe as a syllable, you're automatically a JoJo. So
I wish she were more of a JoJo character, honestly. So she's energetic. That's her thing. She's like, yeah, let's drink and celebrate and stuff. And meanwhile, Kiyoshi is like, she's a girl. And he's thinking like, oh man, like I've never really like, I've got no experience with girls because I was, just like I skipped grades and taking private lessons, so I didn't really interact with girls my age. I thought that I would be paired up with like, some old grizzled man, and instead she's this cute girl. What am I gonna do? How do I do exorcisms? And Akari gives herself like a big proper introduction, like, yeah, during my days, I'm a college student, I'm 20 years old, and if there's anything that you need, then feel free to ask. There is a moment that I do like where Sakaki's like, oh, you're so cool. And although she did graduate last at the academy, and Akari's like, yeah, that's why I'm here. And I got sent out here. But Sakaki's like, yeah, but it's pretty great here. And she's like, yeah, it is. And they do a big like high 10, like, yeah, it's great here. They're just like happy with each other's company. It's like, oh, isn't this nice? Yeah. And Kiyoshi's like, what the fuck? Why are they like super best buddies? This is weird. But then he refers to Sakaki as a playboy, and it's like, they have a cute friendship. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Don't say that. That's weird.
Nothing about him is a playboy right now. Like, be normal.
They're doing, like, nothing to indicate there is any, like, intimacy between them. It's just that they really get along well with each other. And that's nice because they work together.
Well, you see, Nick, women are inherently property. So when you think about it, interacting positively with one is really just about how you now kind of own them in a way. And
you're taking seconds off my life, Quinn, as you talk.
Nick, I thought I've been trying to figure out a way to bump up the numbers for the show, and I found a couple podcasts.
All these manga podcasts out there.
I feel like if we just start getting a couple spicier takes in there about a woman's place in the world.
Yeah, what the fuck is it with Yoshino paying a man to clean for her? What is she forgotten?
That's what she's supposed to be doing, Nick. So I think she should put aside her silly little business, yeah, and pick up a whisk.
Okay. Kiyoshi gets really awkward because Sakaki leaves, and so he's like, oh no, I'm alone with her, I'll just eat so I don't have to talk with her. But she's completely unperturbed by this, and also got drunk pretty quickly because they've been drinking alcohol for this welcome party, and she's like, oh, you got some rice on your cheek, just pulls it off of his mouth very, very familiarly, and he's like, ah! What is this? What she's normally like? Is she a succubus? Should I exercise her? Which feels like it could have been a funny joke. Like, but it's just, he just says it as opposed to, it feels like if you're going to say something like that, you need to go harder.
Yeah, do something.
Like, she's just full on drawn as a succubus, but is also just very casually hanging out. So there is a juxtaposition in it between how she actually is and in his own head. But anyway, but she gets like depressed drunk very quickly because she's like, I've heard that you're like the ultimate exorcist, and I'm a total loser. All I ever do is get in Mr. Sakaki's way, and my family, they don't expect anything out of me, and I don't have talent, but I still want to protect people. This is my backstory. So, she's like, I sometimes wonder if I should even be doing this because I'm so bad at it. But this is actually something that gets Kiyoshi to actually finally make a connection with her, because he says, I mean, it's true you do need to be strong, but for exorcists, what's most important is they need a bit of courage. That's what I was taught. oh, he remembers that from Mr. Yoshida in the first chapter.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I had to be taught that just the other day.
Worth noting as well that she establishes she's from a well-known family, and her family's motto is "the weak should not protect others."
Nothing about what the strong should do or anything. Just that's my family motto.
Yeah, it's just my family motto. It's kind of a bad one. It's kind of like a shitty fortune cookie. If you got it, you'd be like, "What is this? I don't even understand what this is about."
My family motto is don't whine.
My family's motto is do it, full stop, not an exclamation point, not like an encourage you to do it, just do it. Kind of like a stern, just do it.
Do it. But it's like in very small text on the page, just like, like lower third of it, very tiny font. Do it.
Come on. This is just a face of whatever is like the patriarch or matriarch at the time, just like with a stern go. He's like, come on, just do it. Just do it.
Akari gets very emotional because Kiyoshi's super nice and is like, all right, I'm going to do my best. And Kiyoshi's like, she hugged me. She hugged me. All right, fine. But she's like, oh, by the way, I've got a special ability, Demon Foresight. Sometimes I can sense when and where a demon's going to show up. When that happens, my hair stands straight up. Oh, and she gets the stupid hair antenna thing. That's the trope when you get a hair antenna thing. So her hair's standing up right now, and so she's like is running around and stuff, and they run off to go and deal with the sudden appearance of a high-level demon, Kobayashi, who is being a real douche because he's like, oh, I love eating people's souls, especially children's souls. Oh boy, walking around. Akari has arrived on the scene. Kiyoshi got left behind and now doesn't know where she is. And Akari is just hiding from this super strong demon that she can't deal with on her own. Yeah. The dumbest girl in the world shows up. A little girl who, in full view of a massive demon in an Italian suit, says, "Hey, lady, what are you doing here?" Just like really loudly.
Yeah, I mean, she screams when this thing comes at her. So there was a moment where I was like, maybe like ghosts are like invisible. They're invisible to non-exorcists or something like that. But she immediately screams when it tries to grab her. So yeah, like it is one of these things. I'm like, no, this is just a moment I guess you have to chalk up to children are dumb.
Yep, that's it. That's my family motto. Children are dumb.
That's a picture of you frowning as like almost like a Garfield comic. Like your arms are crossed.
My family crest is a child hitting themselves with something and then crying. It's like, what did you think was going to happen?
Those are like your historical events. Like I'm imagining your Game of Thrones sigil is like it's like that Garfield like grumpy cat face, and then like kids suck is your motto, and then like
a full sash along my body, kids suck.
And then, like, instead of titles, you just have quote, like, they're just like, here be Nicholas Freeman, don't touch that. Well, I told you not to touch that. What did you think was going to happen? Don't play in that, you'll make a mess. See, now you're all messy, you have to take a bath. I know you don't want to take a bath, but that's why I told you not to play in that.
Reading off all my titles. First of his name, you little shit. Oh god. Akari protects the little kid when the demon attacks her, gets a little ouchie in her shoulder when she gets grazed by him, and then decides remembers what Kiyoshi said, that she needed to be courageous, and she's like, yeah, I'm an exorcist. I can't beat this guy, but I've got to protect this girl. Gets her cross out, fires an exorcism bullet at the demon. It does absolutely nothing. Just explodes against his head, and he just completely shrugs it off. Swipes his claw to attack her, sends her flying out of the building, and Akari's like, damn it, I couldn't protect that little girl. And then Kiyoshi shows up, beats the demon immediately, summons a little platform so that Akari is safe, doesn't fall to her death, and everything's okay. The little girl is safe, the demon's exorcised, Akari's safe. Afterwards, I do appreciate that Akari says, yeah, I knew it. Strength is what really matters. And yeah, I kind of get her point. Like,
yeah, she was not proven wrong in the exchange.
But Kiyoshi does bring up the point of, if it wasn't for you, this little girl would have died.
Yeah.
Your courage protected her. And he is right. Mm-hmm. Like, it needed both of them for this little girl to be saved. And that is nice. And I do appreciate that it is kind of like acknowledged and joked about by the series of like, yeah, I still suck because I'm not strong. Like, you didn't disprove anything about that. And yeah, they get along a little bit better. But then Kyoshi's like, hey, you didn't call me Miss Akari there. And he's like, oh no, I can't be familiar with women. No. Yeah.
I feel like you're pretty negative on this chapter. I'm not quite exactly where you are. I kind of found Akari a little endearing. I guess because I'm choosing to ignore that this probably won't be the exact personality this character has with Akari the rest of the series. Like, this is like, you remember how Dot sucked at the start? Like yes. Some characters just have to suck when their like relationship involves like their feelings towards women. Unfortunately, like he's gonna kind of have like a weird thing, and then it'll not be as weird going forward. And I like that Akari herself did get a big heroic moment to show that, like, even though she knows she's outclassed, she's gonna give it her all to try to protect people. It's sweet. It's not the tightest writing wise, but I still liked it, and I like Akari's design. She's cute and fun.
Marriagetoxin.
Yes, I've heard so many people say we should return the Phoenix Wright music to the show. I've just been hesitant.
This is a very Phoenix Wright chapter. Absolutely. Yeah. It was.
If I had more confidence that the episode wouldn't just get straight demonetized and removed
or
from YouTube,
muted for this entire section.
I would do it, but times are different here on the internet.
Mm-hmm. So Garo is about to make his big declaration of who actually killed Haibu. He continues his declaration from the previous chapter of like, the one who killed Haibu is, but Haibe, the head of the Fire Clan, just starts laughing, cackling insanely, and it's not that he's the villain, not that he is the one who killed his son. It's that he is disgusted / amused that the lowly spouse of a child of Omen dares to offer me counsel. And Garo says, like, yeah, you doing all this isn't funny to me. Just dead serious.
Oh, I love it. He went from like just using a fire extinguisher on the guy to just like no selling all this dude's fucking over the top antics. He's like, I don't give a shit about what you're doing. I'm not interested in it. It's like, damn, yeah. Garo fucking rules.
So Haibe gets serious and is like, fine, I grow exhausted of this tomfoolery. If you insist that this is Ushio's doing, then let us hear your full explanation. First of all, Shizuku and Haibu were set to face off each other in battle. And Kinosaki is like, oh wow. He's gonna like go full detective mode on this. And so Garo goes on saying, Haibu, is he the type of person who would just agree to meet an enemy in the middle of the night at a place devoid of people? Let's assume, for the sake of argument, he did. Wouldn't he have gone there ready for an ambush? Also, the substance you claim that Ushio used to attack him it lowers the resistance to fire. It's the Fire Clan's weakness. So it must be closely guarded, and its storage is strictly monitored. Shizuku only arrived here yesterday. Is it so cheap and readily available she could have gotten her hands on it in that limited time? I assume that he is calling her Shizuku because they're supposed to be husband and wife in this scenario. So he couldn't just call her Ushio. And lastly, the air at the battlegrounds is especially thick, bad enough it caused her airborne contact dermatitis to flare up again. And I love it, Kinosaki in the background is like, because she makes the connection. She's fully playing the role of oh gosh, I almost just called them their just name, but it's Mai.
Yeah.
Right. Mai.
Yep. She is her Maya.
Maya. Right. So they go full Maya mode. It's like, if Ushio-san was waiting for an ambush, their skin should be in even worse condition right now. Precisely.
Yeah.
But he, got a good look at Ushio's skin because of, they were sharing the room last night and she got undressed and stuff. And so he says that means that she has not been to the battlegrounds since we went there together. It can't be her. But Ibe just rejects this outright and says like, well, isn't that convenient? Yes, I'm sure that the person who, and he's just like, essentially says like, oh, it's really convenient that, all this information is stuff that was just known by the three of you. So yeah, sure, I'll accept your explanation now that you've revealed these details. But mostly it's just that he can't accept that. Manga Plus is being really annoying.
Yeah, I had to open it up on my phone.
I'm going to switch to that real quick. So here we go. I had it open, fortunately. Yeah. So he rejects that explanation out of turn. And then he says, oh, who else would you pin the murder on? And Gero starts to say it, but Ushio interrupts him and says, hey, hold on. I'm grateful that you've spoken up in my defense. But no, this is my doing. Like, this is what we do. We're specialists. We kill people. And yeah, if I don't care if I have to be taking all this cowardly slander while I'm at it. But Gero interrupts her and says, it's unreasonable for you to be lying about this. Like, why are you doing this? And she objects to this, and he says, like, look, you value logic and reason in your actions. If you're throwing that away to protect her, there must be some very complicated circumstances at play here. And Kiyosaki's like, her? Who's he talking about? Ooh. And he essentially says, like, you're taking all this dishonor on despite not being guilty of killing Haibu. This closes off any possibility of settling things with the Fire Clan. If you do this, they're going to continue getting in the way of your career, which is the entire reason you came here to begin with. And Ushio was shocked into silence by this. But Haibe is like, all right, enough of this fucking shit. The girl admitted to her crime, so she's going to pay for it. But Gero's not convinced. He takes out the knife he found earlier, because he's got the knife, of course. He had it all bandaged up and stuff and reveals it. And he says, Haibu wasn't burned to death. He was stabbed. I found this knife at the crime scene, and there is blood on the blade which matches Haibu's. He was stabbed with this knife. Haibu is, again, not believing this. And then, Hai Chi was her name. The sister of the Fire Clan. She realizes, like, oh my god, he was burned because he set himself on fire. And Gero agrees and says probably what happened was he was at the battlegrounds. Someone called him there. He went there to attend something, maybe. I'm not sure. But he was there and he met her, someone he didn't deem as a threat and had no reason to be on his guard around. She used the opportunity to drench him in Forsaken Essence. And even though he wanted to strike back at her, he couldn't, because his resistance to fire was lowered. If he had attacked her, it would have damaged himself. And then she stabbed him with the knife and left quickly. Haibu was left there bleeding out, thinking he couldn't let himself just die this way. It may have been a dirty sneak attack, but if word got out, he was stabbed and killed by an ordinary person of far lower status. It would be a disgrace to the Fire Clan's name. And on the verge of death, he racked his brains and decided that at least he could preserve the reputation of the Fire Clan. He could hide the stab wound and make it appear as if he was ambushed by Ushio instead, someone of roughly equal status. So he burned his own body to dust himself. And Ushio realizes what Gero's about to do in this moment, and she starts to tell him to stop, but Gero just plows on and says, is my conjecture correct? What's wrong? You don't look very well, Miss Housekeeper. Dun-dun-dun!
It makes sense. She wants to protect her. That's essentially her mom.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's not said here, but that's who she is.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great reveal here. I like this, and I feel like we haven't gotten all the mysteries in yet.
Different person? Oh, because her mom did pass away, but is it not?
Supposedly.
Yeah, I thought this was just
someone related to her.
I thought this was supposed to be just like, it turns out her mom's not dead or something like that. Like that's a lie she made up, and why she ultimately came back or something like that. I don't
know. But there's also the matter of like, why did Haibu have the freaking? What was he digging up? What the fuck was he doing? Was he preparing the combat grounds to be in disadvantage for the fight later on? There's at least one more twist that I feel like we haven't gotten yet, because that feels too easy and clean, even for a series that is not a mystery series, basically.
Yeah, I was gonna say it feels like there's an extra element still being hung back on that we're waiting to see, and that'll put the full case into picture. If we're gonna get into it. Nick, who's your favorite famous detective?
My favorite famous detective?
Yeah, your Sherlock Holmes, your Poirot, your
I'm not really
Columbo.
Sure. Columbo is good. I like Columbo jokes more than just actual Columbo because I just didn't grow up with it or anything like that. But I do appreciate. I feel like I don't have a favorite detective, but I do appreciate like jokes about famous detective characters because a lot of them have very fun eccentricities, and even the bad ones you can make fun of. Like the whole. I got kind of a kick out of that show Numbers because I was like, this is stupid.
Is that the one where Jamie Alexander has like tattoos all over herself or something? When you get into the realm of like modern TV procedural detective shows, I have no idea. There was Castle, I think, was one. And
where he was a detective novelist.
Yeah, he would write crimes that happened or something. I don't know the details, but
yeah. So there is a bunch of FBI agents who do this like weird. Oh God, was it? I can't remember. Never mind.
Okay.
I'm not gonna go over it because I can't remember.
But
I do remember
the bad ones are good as well. Yeah, like. Even usually a bad mystery is kind of fun. I probably would say Phoenix Wright is my favorite detective. I have a lot of passion for that, but I have started to enjoy Poirot more. I want to try to catch more of the interpretations of those Agatha Christie novels.
I like. I am quite fond of. Oh God. Benoit Blanc in the Knives Out
series. I do like him a lot as well. Yeah.
He's just so charming and just has no fucking cool around idiots.
It's the exact right level too of an accent where you're like, look, I'm not supposed. This isn't a period piece. Like I'm not supposed to. Like it's fine to exaggerate this a little bit. And I love just how over the top it's like. Well, when are we gonna have our dinner tonight? It's like, when did fucking Foghorn Leghorn show up? Like where do you live? That's your voice at this point in the world.
And it's done with a sense of humor where it's just like, yeah, we'll just put him in a bathtub playing Among Us with a bunch of celebrities.
Yeah, a bunch of other famous detectives.
That's fun.
All right, good stuff.
New Exorcist.
Let's talk about New Sex. Can we just keep talking about detectives instead of New Exorcist?
There is honestly, I will kid you not, this is such a just basic a shonen action thing happens in this chapter. Hollow weapon release. There is a conversation that happens with some of the members of the evil spirit gang that we again haven't really gotten to know yet. This is one of our first scenes of two of them having like a full proper conversation. There's details of like barriers and stuff, and they're establishing like, oh, it's important that this person's here and this person's here. It's like, whatever. All of them are gonna die by the end of this arc. I don't care.
And you need to make sure that their bladders are full because that's again the barrier to your first weapon being destroyed. All these details were established earlier.
This one guy who's got, like a veil over his face says that he made a misjudgment while planning this out, which is really weird for like the first time we get to really see a character, I know he's shown up in a couple of scenes before, but it feels really weird for like one of the first scenes involving a character to go, I am a villain involved in all of these affairs, and I screwed up, and oopsie daisy. So he says, I'll go to the school as well. All right. Shiroha and Shirogane are squaring off against one of the other level 4 spirits, who's got this like armored dress thing. There is like a suit of armor they're wearing, but there's like a skirt to the upper half of it. So they engage in banter for a little while. She says, there's a regular student on the scene. And Shiroha's like, yeah, she's not lying because I can read minds a little bit. And so Shirogane is upset about this because it's someone she knows because she's super popular and stuff. Because
there was a moment they say the character's name, Megami Tsuchioka, and I was like, am I supposed to know? Is that a character?
Shitatsu. Not Shirogane, by the way. Shitatsu. I was saying her name wrong.
But it's that same thing, though, where I'm like, are we as an audience supposed to know who that is? Or are they just like, there's a character you know who's here?
Yeah, basically. Like, we did see a couple of scenes of Shitatsu saying like, hey, so-and-so. So maybe that was her.
Okay,
but like that was such a nothing detail when that happened that I was not gonna burn brain cells in remembering it.
This feels very much like they were like, shit. I need our characters to feel threatened here. What if they threatened a bunch of kids in a hospital? Damn, I just did that. I just did that. Fuck. Classmate is here or something. You're like,
yeah.
Okay. What?
So Shiroha uses her like switching random people with her crow's ability thing, which she can now do to other people, not just herself, to give Shitatsu an opening to get out of there. And she's like, all right, but don't take her down by yourself before I get back. And it's like, don't say that. Don't you want that to happen? Anyway, so she leaves. So again, we're in a situation where it wasn't 2-on-1 against the bad guy. And the bad guy crafted a situation where someone was in danger, where one of the two of them had to leave, and then seemingly will have to come back in order to bail the other one out. So it's the exact same combat scenario as the one that we just had.
Yes.
Anyway, Shiroha tries to attack really quickly from behind and gets countered.
Well, no, come on. I mean, yes. That is exactly what happens. She sneaks up real fast and then gets countered. But I mean, it's different. It wasn't necessarily exactly like the speed move this time.
She does it again, and she summons this big spear thing. It's like, oh, it's the new form of my weapon, this huge lance spear thing. They exchange blows, and Shiroha's like, I won't let you pass no matter what. And then the devil spirit says, hollow weapon release. Shidenrika Futahira. She's got like a battle skirt now, essentially.
Her outfit almost, I think it got a little like detail maybe. Like there's nothing really there. It's like, oh, now I have these floating little fucking geometry shapes. Like, aren't you terrified?
Yeah. She looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh card now, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So then Shiroha's like, all right, let's go, Kyokatsu. Hollow weapon release, 70%. Will of Abyss Flames. Like, oh man, it's a good thing we got her form change earlier in this chapter so she could do another form change. Big shadowy guy with the spear and fire and stuff. And they're squaring off, and Shiroha's thinking to herself, at 70%, I can only release Kyokatsu for 10 seconds. I've got to break that hollow weapon in that time. Okay. This was a battle shonen thing that New Exorcist did. It was a thing.
It's not the best. I will say that. It could have been worse, but this is very much like forgettable action chapter.
Yeah.
That is relying a lot on like, look, new forms, new transformations, update the Wikia quickly now. And you're like, do they do anything cool? Like, I don't get what's supposed to be like engaging or interesting about this.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for Shitatsu to get back, so it'd be like, oh no, one of you got pinned under something, and so the other of you has to kiss them. Just give me, and just do stupid teen stuff. Like that's all I'm saying. It's when you're at your worst, which is your best.
Yeah, we are caught in this weird hell spiral, I guess, where the only times a series is truly actually like enjoyable is when it is dumb, but it is very frustrating when it is dumb. So we're locked in this spiral of like, God, I hope this chapter of New Exorcist is really bad. Damn, it was just boring.
All right. Let's go on to Akane-banashi.
Yeah.
Story 118. I'm counting on you. This is a very, very cute color page here with these pineapples as Shigema and Akane are posing. Akane looks like she's breaking her shoulder, though. It's just a little bit weird, the angle of how she's drawn. I'm not sure if it's the way that her shirt is sitting on her or what, but her body doesn't look quite positioned right to my eyes.
It does look like she's like almost about to dislocate her shoulder doing like the arm behind, but she's, I don't know, maybe just more flexible.
Possibly.
Nick,
it's more that her shoulder seems to start further back than it should.
Yeah, that might be as well.
So anyway, we start off with Rokuro, who we haven't seen in a long time, come to think of it. I
honestly frequently forget this character exists in this series until they show back up, and I'm like, oh right, there's another
jazz guy.
Akane rival. Yeah, all right.
Yeah. So he is at the monthly Rakugo. I'm not sure what you would call it, but he is at the headquarters for monthly Rakugo with Kashio, the journalist, and he's like browsing through some magazines on stuff. And Kashio asks him, like, why are you looking for? Why are you browsing with all this? And so he points out this really old magazine that Kashio takes a look at, and he's like, oh, there's a reference to Shigema here, but based on when this was printed, this must be the previous Shigema Arakawa, the current one inherited the name from. It's interesting because this is a performance listing, but there is no Rakugo story listed, so that they forget it. And Rokuro says, no, he performed a story without a name. He performed the story on stage, but it was unfinished, and he refused to name it. Tentatively, it's known as Shigema or Shigema's Art. So a brand new Rakugo story. And Rokuro says, if you want to know more, I could use your help, but it's top secret. And Kashio says, believe it or not, I'm known for my discretion, which is kind of like a nice, like, you know, like self-reflective thing for a journalist to say. Believe it or not, I'm actually good at keeping secrets, writing them down to publish later.
I have journalistic integrity, but I do want to know. Tell me.
Please tell me. Rokuro says, the basis for Shigema's art is a story that has been passed down within Kashiwaya for generations. A secret story that only a small number of people in Kashiwaya even know about. And it's no longer passed down because of Kiroku Kashiwaya, who was the previous Shigema. I suspect the founding of the Arakawa school and the feud between Master Isho and Master Shigema all stems from Shigema's art. So Kashio says, okay, well, let's say you're right, what you're saying is true. Then why are you chasing this story down? What are you trying to find out? Because you're not the type that tends to stoop around and gossip. And Rokuro says, I want to take it back. That story belongs to Kashiwaya. We get a flashback at this point to when Akane was a kid, you know, like learning Rakugo from Shigema in secret, essentially. And Akane is, you know, just kind of like hanging out around his place, eating an ice cream bar thingy. And she sees him like quietly sitting by himself, and she thinks, I can tell he's practicing the same way that my dad would, just sit by himself and practice mentally. And so she comes up and is like, what are you practicing? And he's surprised to see her, but then he says, like, it's got nothing to do with you. It's a secret. And so she's like, hey, it's no fair. And so he's like, all right. And so he ruffles her hair and says, if you want to know what it is, I'll tell you once you're a full-fledged artist. It's very important. This is a very important story because it's secret. Akane in the present wakes up while she was, kind of dozing off on the train. And we establish, by the way, there was a time skip. 4 months passed. It's not a huge time skip, but it is a time skip.
In the scheme of the series, it's like, what? We've been doing this since Akane was a senior, so it's like 2 years or so have passed. So it is a decent chunk of that when you consider that.
It feels like we will probably get time skips of this nature semi-often, just by the nature of what Akane is doing. It's kind of a thing where it's like, this is a real career that people have, and so her progression does kind of happen in stages. So it makes sense to have little jumps like this more often, as opposed to, and it's been 3 years since we saw them at all. And
especially because like early on in her career, she's gonna have more firsts. It's like, oh, this competition is really important because of this reason, this competition is important because of that reason, and we have to establish rivals and all those sorts of things. That's gonna be less and less of a thing. So yeah, I could see like more like time skips of like a couple months after like an arc finishes.
So the big thing going on with Akane is that she's preparing for her Futatsume advancement. And there is a kind of cute scene of like she's at like a clothing store and she's like, yeah, new kimono, woo! And Shigema is there in an old man straw hat. I love it.
He is. Like, we learned from the one like the summer festival or whatever, where he like walked around in like the like whatever, like the sumo kind of like outfit is, or whatever it is. This guy's just got like a weird old man riz to him. I feel like he's always had it. When he was 18 years old, he had this old man riz to him for some reason. It's just, it works for him. I don't know what to tell you. He looks this is very grandpa chic right now.
Oh yeah, the suspenders, the shirt with the rolled up sleeves, but he still somehow looks fashionable. It's really weird. So she's really enthusiastic about this, like, oh my god, look at all, I want to get this and this, and we get a mini flashback to establish like why they're doing this and how Shigema impressed upon her, like, hey, so you're going to be slated for a promotion in October, and so Akane's like, oh, it takes like half a year for the promotion to happen after it's been decided. And Shigema's like, yeah, but you're not just waiting around during that time. This is where things get hard. First, you need a black crested kimono, a new Haori jacket and hakama emblazoned with a crest, and you'll need a colored crested kimono. As for Tatsume, you'll be allowed to wear a kimono Haori and hakama with our crest on it. That means more options. And there's just like this really weird, like, look at how cool our Haori are. People posing with their emblems and stuff. And there is a kind of funny, really quick montage in cartoonish style that happens of Akane being really enthusiastic about some things, where she's like, oh man, personalized hand towels, and the hand towels are our business card and stuff, and she's got a design all worked up with terrible art design to it.
It's very adorable, but it is like did your little cousin draw this?
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, and you got to choose your entrance music. And Akane's like, oh, okay.
I am sure we have asked this, Nick. What would your entrance theme song be?
Oh, I am very fond of a orchestral rock cover of Dvorak's Ninth.
Oh, wow. Okay. I like that. I want sort of like a medley of Sonic the Hedgehog songs, but all played on top of each other.
Oh no, that's not a medley, Quinn.
Well, like, I don't think I'm going to take that long to get on stage. So like, they're not going to have enough time to do Live and Learn and Sonic Heroes and What I've Learned. Like, they're not going to have time. So like, if I just put them all on top of each other, you get to experience it.
or you could just have like all of the like the high notes in each song played in a continuous stream. So it's like live and learn, walk, heroes.
Everyone,
all back to back.
Everyone's like, I hate this. I don't care what she's gonna say. I hate her. I cannot stand her.
So yeah, Shigma says you need to choose your entrance music. You get, because that's, as Futatsu, you get to decide your baseball walk-up music, basically. And then you need gifts to give everyone when you announce your promotion, and there's this and this, and it goes from like Akane being like, yeah, I've got this thing, to oh boy, to he's dragging her around when they run around really quickly. It's a cute little gag.
I also appreciate better use of speed lines than Boruto.
Oh yeah, because it gives a sense of like things are happening really quickly.
We don't always do things with speed lines, so when we use them, it means that something exciting is happening.
A day of doing all this shopping and prep and stuff ends, and they're hanging out at a coffee shop, and Akane is exhausted, and Shigema says, hey, I warned you, this is where it gets hard, and you're going to have to do even more for your Shinichi promotion. And there's a really quick cut over to Maikaru just lying face down on the ground, and there is a caption over his body that says, Maikaru's corpse, and he has started writing a name in the ground. It's cute. But Akane, although she's tired, she says, it's a good tired. Like when I was moving on to middle school or to high school, it's like something new was starting. And plus, it's been a really long time since we walked around together. And it's like, aw, yeah, that's nice. And Shigema says, like, yeah, we don't really do that anymore because we don't want people to think that we've got some sort of weird sugar daddy relationship again.
I completely forgot that was eventually called out. They were like, yeah, remember fucking chapter 2? We had to address that. And I'm like, oh, damn. Okay, got it.
And it kind of says, like, yeah, I remember. Do you remember? We came here years ago. And she was like, oh, did we? And she's like, yeah, I remember the Neapolitan pasta. He's like, oh, yeah, they gave you this huge, enormous heap on your plate. And so she's like had so much that she was like, oh my god, how do I eat this? And so they just share a little memory, and Shigema says, and that little squirt's already Futatsume. You're a full-fledged artist. Aww. But then Akane says, can you teach me a ninja banashi? Like, I'm like a Zenza who needs to learn the breadth of Zenza banashi. A Futatsume needs to learn height. The period where you tackle harder stories on your way to becoming a Shinichi. And when I look at my current position, I know I can't produce the same depth that Maikaru can. And maybe it's not possible just yet, but I like to learn one story. Yes, Quinn?
Yeah. So I get confused. What are the different ranks of Rakugo? There's Zenza, which Akane is, and then she's testing for Futatsume. And then Shinichi is above that, and Noneta is the top.
Maikaru just got promoted to Shinichi. Yeah.
So there's 4 ranks then.
I think there's only 3 ranks.
Okay.
There's 4, I guess, if you're not like a full actual Rakugoka, like the way Akane was at the very start of the series, where she was a rookie. But when she become an actual Rakugoka, there's 3 ranks. And then at the top, there is, the Arch 4 and stuff, but they're all like the same rank. And there's, Okanban, which is not an official rank. It's like a distinction of like you are a headliner.
I got confused because the pyramid is about the different kinds of stories that are taught. Okay, gotcha. Yes, and I was like, wait, is there another rank I'm forgetting?
Yeah, it's like the first level of the levels of stories.
It's confusing because, it's called Zenza-banashi, and it's performed by Zenzas. You understand how?
Yeah, the book series is called The Seventh Tower, but there's only 6 books.
It's bullshit. Like, what the fuck is this?
I recently re-listened to that podcast. Bonus episodes of our show, by the way, can be found on patreon.com/weekly manga recap. I did a thing where I talked to Quinn about a series of books I read as a kid called The Seventh Tower, which has 6 books, and it pissed her off to no end.
It's deeply, deeply frustrating. There's a whole Mark Rosewater has done like an entire thing about how like Magic the Gathering players hate asymmetry. So there's a card called Grizzleband, which is a card that has 7 power. It has 7 toughness. When you hit somebody, you can pay 7 life to draw 7 cards, and it costs 8 mana. And everyone's like, I fucking hate this fucking card. Like, I can't. Why did you do this to me?
There's 7 in there. There's a 7 in those. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I fucking hate that.
You pay 8 mana. Oh. So, Akane admits like, I want to learn Ninja-banashi, and maybe I can't produce the same depth that my Karu can just yet, but I would like to set a goalpost for myself so I can tell myself one day I'll be a Rakugoko worthy of this. And she also is like, I need the judgment to consider my own style, my own ability to express things, and I need to pick stories that are suited to me. I've got to be able to do this because I'm an apprentice of Shigema Arakawa. She gives a big grin. It's very, very sweet.
Yes.
Shigema says, do you remember years ago you asked me about something I was practicing? You were very curious about it. I'd be willing to teach you that story. But I've got a solo event next month, and I'm going to count on you to be the opener. Ooh. And Akane gets really excited because she's like, he's never asked me to do that before. But she keeps her cool, and she's like, I humbly accept this honor. It's a very sweet chapter. There's a little bit of intrigue at the beginning with Rokuro, but I like having this chance of like, hey, Shigema and Akane have this bond from when she was a little girl, and they just kind of get a little chance to reflect on that while she continues to go forward, and that's just nice.
Yeah, I think it's definitely cute. It's nice to see her get this like sort of relaxing chapter as well in the midst of like drama. Like, oh right, like human characters and relationships can be the focal point of the story as well, and it's cool. And also, I do like the little detail that she gets offered this thing that's so big to her, and she's like, I'm a professional now. This would be that sounds most agreeable. Cool. Thank you.
All right. Let's do One Piece to finish up.
Yeah, Nick, let's wrap this up with One Piece chapter 1120, Atlas. Our cover page story. Denjiro has showed up to save Yamato from those pesky children.
From children.
He will not be bothered anymore. He is he's rounded up all these children in a net, and he says he will sentence them.
I have used my child capturing net. I swear I was just pretending to be a bad guy.
I don't use this at all. That's why I carry it with me, to show how infrequently I use it. God. So we start with a flashback to 26 years ago in Punk Hazard as Professor Clover is begging Vegapunk to study the Void Century with everybody at Ohara, because the more they study it, the more they realize they need expertise in other fields, and they need someone like Vegapunk to help them figure everything out. And Vegapunk's like, how many times have you been arrested? They know where to find you. Surely they will not let you live if you keep digging into this. And, they're probably just waiting until they can get all of you rounded up in one location. Like, pull back, stop. Clover just says, I once saw a man with the name of D killed right before my eyes without warning. A man I was born and raised with. My older brother. My true name, Nick, is not Cloud Clover. It is Cloudy Clover.
I did not even remember who this fucking dude was until I got context clues. So I was like, all right, sure. If you have a D sound in your name, I guess you're actually a D named person. Sure, whatever.
I recently found out, I guess I just never realized it, or maybe I had learned it and forgotten it, that Law's full name is the way it is because it's supposed to be a reference to Waterloo. And I was like, fuck off. I got confused the first time I read this because I thought he was saying his older brother's name was Cloudy Clover, and I was like, well, wait, what's this motherfucker's name then? Then I realized, it's it's this guy he's talking about. And he's like, yeah, my brother was killed in front of me, and I only survived because I lied. I just said he was a friend. And I don't think it's...
My brother was named Muddy Clover.
Yeah.
It's a way less impressive name.
Moody Clover. Yeah, you're like, ugh. Clover is just like, it's unfair that a person should be died simply for declaring their name. It's nonsense. And Vegapunk's like, I won't help you, but I'll forget what you said, and I'm telling you now to please be careful. And as the flashback ends, Clover is just shouting out to Vegapunk, I will solve this mystery someday. The voices in the past will be heard. So we cut 4 years later, and they're inside. They're doing some science stuff with him, and I forget what that group's name was called, with like Caesar Clown and all that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm blanking on it right now. With Judge
like
in it.
Right, the whole Vegapunk group.
Yeah, I can't remember. Mads, I think, actually. I think it was Mads or something like that. Yeah, there we go. I got it before people posted in chat. I want that to be known. I did reach deep and found that. Anyway, Caesar Clown's being a shit. Nothing else is really new. He's just laughing about how everyone in Ohara is being killed. He's like, oh, it's so cool. They're being slaughtered. I think they finally killed that Clover dude. That's so rad. No one's gonna research the Void Century again. Fuck yeah. Like, he is straight up just...
What kind of a scientist is Caesar Clown? He's like, if it doesn't involve experimenting on children, fuck it all. Fuck them for trying to find out anything. They didn't torture a single child to not try and find that information. Fuck them.
Yeah, he never got the vaccines that keep you from being evil. Like, he just didn't get this. So, like, he doesn't know how to live differently. He caught evil once and he can't get rid of it. But Vegapunk is slightly heartened because they say a child escaped, and he's looking at a bounty poster of Robin, and he goes over to Ohara thinking, surely you had time to escape, Clover. And he's like looking into the big hole of water basically that they dump the books into, and he's like, did you all die just to preserve all of this information here? What lunatic would risk certain death just to continue your research? And he's crying. We cut back to the present. This is going to be another one of those chapters where I have to describe Vegapunk's speech while 1,000 other actions are happening. So Vegapunk's speech is continuing. He's saying that someone once said that the voices of the past will be heard. History is told by the winners, and the voices of the losers at the bottom of the sea are so very faint. But
that's a killer fucking line. That's so cool.
This chapter, I'm going to say it right now. This is my chapter of the week. This chapter is such a great example of why One Piece is so fucking good. Because it does have something fucking interesting to say. Like, at the end of the day, when I finish reading One Piece, I will be able to be like, there were some great lines about humanity and war and, like, listening to, like, the defeats of cultures and things like that. It's just a great line, too. And while he's saying that the truth was gleaned, it was at the cost of much sacrifice. We cut over to Robin, who's just, like, kind of hiding her face in her hands. Very, very, very sad.
She's very much like, I'm not crying right now.
So we cut over to the Straw Hat ship, and Zoro's like, let's go. And Lilith's like, no, we can't go yet, because if that fucking horse thing attacks us at this point, it could reduce our startup, and we will definitely crash. Like, there is no way we're going to be able to survive without dealing with that old guy. And something really fast comes up behind Lilith and fucking wallops her, like crushes her head into the ground, and it's Atlas. And of course, everyone's like, Atlas,
what the fuck are you doing?
Why did you do this? Like, what did you? And she...
Atlas, stop hitting yourself.
Atlas seems to do something to Lilith, and there's a click sound, and we see her look over to Zoro, and she just says, take care of Lilith. Fly. I'll remove the obstacle. And we see York is kind of, she's like, yes, Lilith's access just shorted out. Lilith's access just shorted out. Only Atlas is left. So we're down to just one. But Zoro is given the order to take Lilith inside, and Atlas flies off to deal with Venus. Jinbei is like, we don't have any more time. Fire it now. So they fire off the coup de burst. Atlas immediately loses an arm. We don't really see exactly how that fight ends at this moment. She comes back for another attack, but like she loses her arm immediately in that exchange. Thousand Sunny gets launched into the air. Cut over to Emmett and Luffy, who are having this very cute moment where Emmett's just like, Joy Boy, I'm so happy to see you, Joy Boy. Joy Boy, I'm talking to you. And Luffy's just like, what? What are you talking about? And people are, there's a lot of threats coming. So Emmett just says, you go ahead. Your enemy is my enemy, and I'm so happy I get to fight for you again, Joy Boy. Luffy's just like, oh, this is so cool. This is great.
You can talk.
Yeah. Emmett's just like, yeah, Joy Boy's in danger. I must protect him against these, the elders, essentially. I still don't know what we call them besides the elders. I don't know if there's a name for them, but they also deduce that this speech will not end until this robot is just destroyed. You can't just knock it into the ocean. This thing has to die. And Luffy's like, hey, yeah, I guess that thing's on our side. It says it wants to protect someone called Joy Boy. I don't know who that is. And the Giants are just like, we didn't hear it talk, but okay. There is a moment where Jupiter shoots up and is attacking Emmett, and Emmett is able to, like, it is holding their arm up, like it's preparing for something. And there's like a moment, like Frankie and Sanji are all excited, like this robot's
rocket fist, rocket punch.
But with the fist held up in the air as Jupiter's coming towards them, that's a and it is just noted that it's a 900-year-old weapon. It probably isn't going to work, right? So Emmett is having to hold back Jupiter, and that gives Saturn a moment to jump off of Jupiter's back and towards everybody. He sees Kuma and Bonnie and it's like, but they look in the air. The Sunny is coming. And they start noticing as the Sunny is coming down, it is not going to make it. There is not enough land or not enough space. They don't have enough momentum. They're going to crash. And Venus just says, are you going to sacrifice yourself to Atlas? And Atlas just says, nope. Extra service on the house. And explodes. And that...
Yeah. Interesting word choice for what happens right there. Yeah.
Well, she gives the Sunny the little bit of a boost it needs to clear the land, and it's going to land into sea now at this point. And while this is happening, the speech continues that Vegapunk is saying 25 years ago, the pirate Gold Roger completed an unprecedented tour of the world. And what he and his crew heard, I'm trying to find out where all the fucking, like, dialogue bits are, were likely the purest voices of his past. And Vegapunk finishes as, Mercury and Jupiter look like they are going to stand down against Emmett. Vegapunk says, in conclusion, I'm sure you've all surmised by now, my view of our future is thus. And it is worth noting that Emmett, as he is facing down, I guess we don't know a gender, they are facing down Jupiter and Mercury, thinks to themselves, oh, I'm all rusty, but Joy Boy, you said when the time is right. I think this counts. I'm going to use it, okay? So, we will get something. Emmett's about to do something, but it does appear as if Vegapunk is about to deliver essentially the thesis to this very, very long speech.
Yeah, there's also a lot going on. York is celebrating because now Atlas is gone, so she's like, I'm the only one. I'm the only Dr. Vegapunk left. So she's celebrating, but the elders are all like, yeah, but we gotta kill the fucking robot thing because the cell is still going off inside of it.
It is also worth noting, Erie Gray in the chat brought up, that Vegapunk refers to Gold Roger as Goldie Roger. This is the first time that
so
information is
out,
known
like,
publicly.
Goldie Roger.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, okay, that's all right. They don't have the same reaction we did back in like 2009 or whatever the fuck that chapter came out, where everyone was losing their mind.
He was a D, guys.
Not since Sora and Smash has a reveal shaken the internet as much as when a bunch of nerds found out Gold Roger's name was Goldie Roger.
Not since Sora and Smash, which happened more recently than that reveal.
Yeah.
I get the impression, for whatever reason, that when Emmett appears in the anime, that they're going to have like a high little kid voice.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking that exactly. Like, Joy Boy, you said when the time is right. Yeah, it's going to be like a little kid voice.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on here that's like really little bits that it feels like are going to come into play later, the way that a lot of very eventful One Piece chapters are. First off, Lilith has been disconnected from Vegapunk, but she is still alive.
Yeah.
Which feels important. It seems like if any of them are going to make it, it feels like she will, just because she's been taken out of commission without being blown the fuck up.
It is still possible that they'll do something with Edison that we didn't see like a direct death on screen. But yeah, the fact that Lilith survived means at least some aspect of Vegapunk's knowledge is going to survive as well. It's still...
Right.
It's weird because Vegapunk dying in the moment seemed undersold, and then we've kind of been spending a very long time doing what feels like his final act to the world. So now I'm like, oh, actually, now I think it might stick, and it's a weird space.
I do wonder about Atlas's words, because Venus said you would sacrifice yourself, and she says nope, which means that maybe she also did something in that moment of, you know, the click with Lilith that wasn't just disconnecting her. Maybe she did something where like their weird hive mind might, for example, like live on in her to some capacity.
Yeah.
So maybe those Vegapunks that we've seen die are going to be kept around in some way. I find it funny if this is the case. It's not necessarily the case. Obviously, we're still in this arc and stuff. That if Lilith is the one besides York who survives all this, that she's the most normal looking of all the Vegapunks, including the original.
There is a bummer that she has probably the most basic design. I still like Lilith's design. People shit on her. I think like the
I like her hair and her hoodie.
The outfit's cute. I like her hair. I wish she had less of the Nami face going on, but like, look, I've just accepted One Piece at this point to a certain degree, so I'm not against it. I think she also has one of the more interesting personalities, I guess, of the Vegapunks, but still remains to be seen, I guess, what'll happen. But it does seem like Lilith will make it out of this at the very least. I say that next chapter she's fucking exploding to get the ship somewhere.
And we're gonna have a giant robot thing doing a cool thing against some kaiju bad guys next chapter, it looks like. So hopefully. I look forward to that as well.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. So you said already that your favorite chapter this week was One Piece.
Yeah, One Piece was really, really good this week. It was good dramatically, and as you said, that line is just really, really good. I think it's just cool how the sort of point of this chapter is just like, it's good to research the tragedies of the world and to not let them be forgotten, because history is going to try to repeat itself, and you can't let that happen. It feels like words we need to hear frequently today.
Absolutely. And who was your MVP?
I'm gonna give it to I don't know her name. I haven't memorized it yet, but the girl from Hima-Ten. Yoshino. I liked her a lot. I think she was rather mature. I liked her new design with the glasses and the hair down. I don't know. She was just good this chapter.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a little bit of recognition to her and to Nishida as well. We were talking. I was like, oh, look at this boy. He suddenly became a cool guy to his classmates and stuff. But my MVP is gonna be Shigema. It's kind of a shared thing between himself and Akane, but Akane is the main character. If I have to choose between the two of them interacting and only one getting the MVP, it's going to be Shikima who gets it. And my favorite chapter this week was Marriagetoxin. I really loved the mystery reveal thing and all the dramatics of like why Ushio is keeping the secret and the interaction between like we said, the very Phoenix Wright ass interplay between Gero and Hybe, because he's having the full Ace Attorney villain meltdown, even though it seems like he's not the guilty party.
Yeah,
it seems, but he's probably the antagonist anyway. Let's be real.
I'm sure he's probably going to be a bad guy in some way in all of this.
Yeah, Yeah.
The audience, by the way, picked Undead Unluck as the chapter of the week, and there was almost a unanimous agreeal that Atlas was the character of the week. But I do have
the holdout.
There was one vote for Akane, but my favorite is G. Flugel, who just had Huge Melon from Blue Box as the character of the week. So, unfortunately, we also ruined Ninja's plans of the straight Atlas sweep, but I appreciate that. Huge Melon also was a spoiler.
That is going to do it, everybody. Thank you all for joining us for Weekly Manga Recap. We have more episodes of the show on twitch.tv they're not on, well, there might be some highlights on twitch.tv.
Yeah, there are clips. I know Brala in our Discord will very frequently make clips.
Yeah, especially when one of us goes on a rant about something stupid, which is every episode.
Did we do one this week? Did we get one? Did we think? What clips from this episode do you think Brawler will clip?
I'm not going to. I'm falling into a loop because I feel like I'm just going to talk about how if I say anything at all of note right here, it'll be this, and we may have already stepped into it. I have to get out. I have to get out of this situation right now, and we're changing the topic. Okay. So, I'm doing my wrap up, Quinn.
All right, I'll go check out my Snorlax and Pokemon Sleep. We can drop the topic. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna feed him up with so many berries. He's gonna have a great day.
Twitch.tv/RoloT is where we stream the show from when we go live Wednesdays, usually around 7:30 to 8 Eastern time. If you wanted to say on when the show does go live, we've got a Discord server. It'll be linked wherever this gets posted, and we have a wonderful community there. Discuss the chapters of stuff as we're getting set to cover them. Discuss the current recommendation, which is Talentless Nana, which should be coming up soon. And hey, find a link on there to the Google Doc maintained by Ninja X3i. You can make your own suggestion for a future series for us to cover. Vote for MVP in your favorite series each week so that we get the audience result, which we rattle off at the end of each show. We have past episodes on
Next
Weekly Manga
week,
Recap.
You could be Huge Melons. What's very funny is how much it threw you off your rhythm. Like, it very easily could have been something you talked straight over.
I went 85 miles an hour to 0.
It was like,
I wasn't consciously thinking about what I was talking about, and now I have to pick up the pieces and figure it out.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Weeklymangaria.podbean.com is where our past episodes can be found for the audio version. They're also on various podcast outlets like Spotify and iTunes and that kind of thing. Video episodes on youtube.com/weeklymangarecap, where you can check out the opening sequence by Milo Jack Stills and Wensleydale Cheddar. Thank you guys for making that for us. It's awesome. Steve Man occasionally does title card artwork for us as well. You can check out all his artsy stuff out there by searching for Steve Man art all across the internet. Now I think we're clear, and we're gonna get set to wrap things up.
Yeah.
And
we're ready to wrap up. Nick, anything you would like to throw out? Well, I guess that's the thing we do after this. This is the regular send off to the show.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you guys don't get the bonus send off and listen to the show live if you just listen to the YouTube episode.
You don't get to find out what extracurricular projects we're doing, which seems like a detriment on our part. You only get to find that if you're listening live, which is a much smaller demographic of our audience.
And done.
Yep.